Welcome to the Kianistan podcast. With us today, we have once again Professor Hooshang Amirahmadi. Professor Hooshang is an Iranian-American academic and political analyst. He's someone with deep expertise on Iranian political economy and global development. In fact, he is a three-time candidate for Iranian presidential elections. So who better to speak to about what's going on in Iran and in the region than Professor Hooshang. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Tafhim, and for the invitation. I'm doing fine. Unfortunately, not very happy these days because of this war, of course. And I had a plan to go back to Iran on March 8th, but the few days before the war started and everything fall apart. So I'm here. Love to go back to Iran and be with the Iranian people at this very critical time. But this war has surprised many Americans, Israelis, the Arabs, and the Iranians themselves. And the surprise is the level of resistance and the level of capabilities that the Iranian military, particularly the Revolutionary Guard, has demonstrated. It's amazing, this tenacity, the resistance they have put together, the skills they have demonstrated, and the staying power. Yes, probably historically, it has been very unusual to have so many top leaders eliminated so fast.
Yes.
But at the same time, it is also historically very unique and unprecedented to have a regime, a group of people who will stay on, continue after all that eliminations. So there is this uniqueness on both sides. Unfortunately, the enemies only see the first side. They don't see the second side.
You're so right, Professor. When I look at what's happening, I actually think military experts are going to study what's going on for decades to come, because it was such a the way that the Iranian establishment was able to use the resources that they had available after decades of sanctions, not having a regular air force, not having a regular navy, but the way that they've kind of laid out their military resources, what they call a mosaic strategy. It is quite impressive, and you're absolutely right. When we listen to Trump, he's talking about the fact that he has done regime change 3 times in Iran, which means that he actually doesn't even know what regime change means. That means every time we have a new election in America, there's a regime change going on. But when we look at what's actually going on on the ground, if we look at all of the past wars that America has waged, even the ones that have ended up in failure, if we look at Vietnam, if we look at Iraq, if we look at Afghanistan, America was able to pretty quickly take over the land, occupy the land. It's just after a long period of fighting, they just get tired and they realize they don't need to be there. They need to go home, and they end the war. But this is probably the first time I can think of where, let alone occupying Iranian land, they can't even get close to Iran at the moment. How do you see the military strategy or lack of it from America?
Well, you are absolutely right saying that, and of course, the American Mr. Trump and his people thought that this will be a quick war. It's Venezuela. Second, that they will go, eliminate and then get their own people in charge, and it's done. And they will go after Iranian oil and other resources and have fun. Obviously, that has happened and will never happen given the circumstances that we have. Americans, as you said, are very good in short term, but they are not good for the medium and long term. In short term, they can claim and do sometimes win, but almost always they lose in the medium and the long term. That's one. Second, American military is very good in fighting local and global wars. They are not made to fight for the middle one, the middle regional or the middle state wars. In all middle wars, they lose. The small little, local wars, they win. And of course, in the global war, they are prepared for. And in this case, obviously, they are dealing with the middle one. Iran is a middle power in the region, and America is bogged down already in that middle. I think this war obviously has changed the regime, so-called. That's what Trump says. That is to say, it has changed from Mr. Khamenei to another person, which just happens to be his son, from a Mr. Khamenei who was much, much, much more moderate than the one replaced him, Mujtaba, who is much, much more radical. And that Mr. Khamenei really was a break on the military, on the Revolutionary Guard. He would have fought the second war exactly the same he fought the first war a few months ago. What he did in the first war, he did not allow the Iranian Revolutionary Guard or military to send a single missile to the Arab world. He would not allow the Iranian military to close the Strait of Hormuz. Basically, he sat back and got hit and then accepted a ceasefire. That is Khamenei and the first war. But Mujtaba and the second war is 180-degree different. Now, the Revolutionary Guard is liberated. They are in the field doing what they think they should be doing, and Mujtaba has their backing. Yes. And Mujtaba was and is for these missiles hitting the small Arab states and hitting and then closing the strait, and against any ceasefire or negotiation. So again, there are a bunch of people, the remnant of what I call the old regime, like the Iranian foreign ministry, the president or the speaker of parliament, who wish to negotiate a ceasefire or end to war, but I believe they don't dare to speak out publicly, and their life is in danger, not by Israel and America, by the radicals inside who has taken over what I call the colonels. Now, in the field, we don't have the generals. We have the colonels. Okay, we have the young Iranians, just the young Turks after the Ottoman Empire. So this is the moment of the young Turks and the young Iranian here. And I call it the time when Nader Shahi has come into control Iran, as opposed to Shah Sultan Hussein. In Iranian history, we have a Shah Sultan Hussein that symbolizes, anything that is bad, that's anything that is for compromise and, submission and so on. And then, of course, comes Nader Shah, who actually goes all the way to India. Okay, and that now I think is the moment of the Nader Shah. They are in the field. America doesn't understand that. Besides that, let me tell you only one more point on this. The United States went and overthrew a democratic prime minister or a government, Mossadegh, back in 1953. Of him, for 80 years since then, Americans have been paying the price for that coup.
So true.
That's right. The 1953 coup. For almost 80 years, Americans are still paying for that coup. The 1953 revolution would have not happened if that coup wasn't there. That coup led to the 1979 revolution. And Americans, since then, for its 47 years, really has become bloody in that part of the world. I'm not sure when the Americans are going to come to their sense.
Yes.
We know Israelis will never come to their sense, but I hope America will at some point.
So too, Professor, America has been paying a price for the coup for 80 years, but they still haven't learned their lesson. They still are completely unaware of the significance of the status of Ali Khamenei that they killed. And somehow, I think they're kind of singing off the hymn book of Israel, who thinks that you can win war simply by replacing, by decapitating. They haven't even achieved success in decapitation with Hamas, Hezbollah. Iran is a constitutional state. And I think you're absolutely right. I think there was a lot of strategic patience being exercised by the old guard. Constantly, when Qasem Soleimani was killed, they observed patience. When JCPO was ripped up, they observed patience. When twice now they've had negotiations halfway through and Iran's been attacked. What happened in the embassy in Syria, they didn't kind of retaliate against it as much as they could have. I think there was even, I've heard that inside Iran, there was criticism growing up that Iran's been too patient, and that's given the wrong signal to USA that Iran is a pushover. And I think you're absolutely right. This new guard is completely different, and it's going to backfire on America. It's already backfiring.
That is very true. I was talking about the passing from the moment of Shah Sultan Hussein, the King Sultan Hussein, to the King Nader, the Nader Shah, that symbolizes Iran's resistance and victories. Okay, so again, we are now in the field, not Shah Sultan Hussein's, in either on their leadership or in the streets, but Nader Shah, the people of Nader Shah. So that's number one. A second, talking about Israel. Listen, Israel doesn't want to win war. Israel is just there to destroy and kill.
Yeah.
That's different. I think people misunderstand Israel. Israel is not there to win war. Israel is there just to kill and destroy. In Iran, Israel is not after regime change. Israel is not after winning this war. Israel, after destroying this country, putting that into pieces. That's what Israel is after. Okay, so I think we have to understand the way the Israelis do the work, and particularly in recent time, Israelis have moved from winning to destroying. That's a very important, conceptual change, a strategic change in the Israeli part. And most people don't understand this change, that Israel is no longer a state that wanted to win, just like they used to win the wars with the Arabs.
Yeah.
Now they don't want to win even with Hamas. They just wanted to destroy Gaza, to kill 65, 75 million Palestinians, and then make millions to fly out. So that's the way it is. In Iran, too, that's what they are trying to do. But I have to tell you, here, they will miserably fail. This is the last Israeli war. Believe me, this is the last Israeli war of destruction and regime collapse.
Let's hope. I think you're absolutely right, and I pray that you are right. Professor Hooshang, you're located in America. You have deep ties to Iran. I wonder how. So there's a lot of expats, and a lot of them have grievances with the Iranian state, and that's absolutely natural. There's always going to be a community, a part of community that doesn't see eye to eye with the ruling elite. But how do you see how there's a portion of the expats who have been encouraging America to attack their own country, to attack their own people? How do you see the role that they're playing, and how are they being seen by people inside Iran, but even other expats like yourself who have more sense and they understand what America and Israel is actually trying to do? They're not the friends of Iranian people.
Yes. Well, Iran is in a very tragic situation. Back in Iran, for a second, forget about the expats. Back in Iran also,
Yes,
lots of Iranians do not like the Islamic Republic because of the excesses of the management, the wrong management, the too much emphasis on Islam as opposed to Iran, and then the dictatorship and all that, and that is why many Iranians saw Mr. Khamenei's elimination as a blessing for the country, because he had his feet on the neck of everybody, the Revolutionary Guard, the average Iranians, his own people. He was not making any move, and he would not allow anybody to move. So that was a very important turning point in Iran's recent history. That is his elimination. God help him. I wish him good luck out there. But unfortunately, his leadership toward the end of his time was not very productive. In fact, not productive at all. So Iranian got turned off from the Islamic Republic by big majorities. And they went to the streets many times trying to force the regime to open up, to come to its sense, to bring the people back to the scene, ask for their participation and the rest of it. But the regime resisted, unfortunately, and in the course of this resistance, of course, there were Iranians who escaped the country and became expatriates, or enemies like Israel and the U.S. were able to enlist them as mercenaries.
Yeah.
So they began enlisting many within the expatriates as mercenaries, as paid agents, as infiltrators, and that kind of stuff, fifth column and so on. Now, I have to say also, the expatriates are not all in one group.
yes,
It would be unfair to think of all of them being traitors to their nation.
yes.
Some of them really are fed up with the Islamic Republic. They wanted to go back to their home. They love their country, and they are not happy with this war. But another group, which, thanks God, isn't that big, but has a big mouth. And of course, but tremendous money from Israel, some of the Arab wars, and the U.S. These people make it in the media as if they are the majority. They are not. They are not a majority in the expatriate community, which is about 10 million, of which I would not say even a million is involved in this case. And then, of course, back in Iran also, they are not the majority, even if let's say 70% of the Iranians have turned against the regime. But even that's 70%, okay, of among them, not even 20% will follow these traitors from outside. So again, it's a very, and that is the miscalculation that Netanyahu and Trump made. They thought if they go and hit and eliminate these big guys, the people will come to the street and overthrow the regime completely. But they were wrong. Not only they did not do it, in fact, as I speak, there is more people in the side of the regime now than before the war started. So, in fact, that is why Mr. Trump keeps saying, I wasn't there for regime change.
Yes.
For regime change, you asked the Iranian people to come to the streets. You told them, I am going to come to help you. Don't lie.
Yeah.
Iranian, no, you were for the regime change, but you failed. You miserably failed. And in fact, you strengthened the Iranian nation.
So true. It's very difficult to see Trump these days and figure out whether he's actually insane or if he's lying and he doesn't. It's very difficult to figure him out. Professor,
Both.
it could be both, true. How do you see, so you actually see with a whole change of generation that's come through from this war, do you see after the war, do you think there will be a definite change in policy as well, religious policies and the setup? Do you think that, or do you think it's, once the war is over, it's going to be back to the old days?
Well, it is impossible to go to the old days for the regime and for the Iranian people. The life has changed. Even if they don't lose the war, even if they win the war for whatever reason, Iran has changed. Iran has changed big time. Iran has entered a whole new era, as I call the era of Nader Shahi, the king of Nader. That means, in my view, after the war, for a while, the revolutionary people, the Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, will be in charge. Where the old remnant, like the parliament or the executive branch and the judiciary, gradually changing, and that I believe the Revolutionary Guard is going to get rid of many of them. And the Iranian people, they must change. If the Revolutionary Guard wins the war and wanted to continue the life as usual just in the past, that will be a suicidal move. That will be a killer for them. They will have, after the war, the greatest chance that Iran has had for the last 2 centuries to change that country in the right direction. I think Iran doesn't need, for the next at least 5 to 10 years, a democratic regime. And I don't believe in it at this point. It is not possible at this point. So I don't mind a benevolent dictatorship to take over, which will be headed by the Revolutionary Guard and some radicals in alliance with technocrats who are nationalists. Remember, Iran has changed. I wrote an article 36 years ago. The name of the article is, The Emerging Civil Society in Iran. It is published in English and Persian. The Emerging Civil Society in Iran. In that article, I say that the Islamic Republic's life will have 4 stages. Stage 1, I call it the stage of Islam. That is, everything is Islam. Even the name Iran is prohibited. But nationalism is a traitor, and that only Islam. Then after the war with Iraq, got into some kind of a difficulty, they gradually brought Iran in and some sense of Iranian nationalism to to mobilize for the war. And I call that stage the stage of Islam Iran. Now, from Islam, we moved to Islam Iran. And then came the next stage, and that was, just, I think it happened with Ahmadinejad, presidency. Mm-hmm. And I call that stage the stage of Iran Islam. At Iran comes first. There is no talk of the Islamic interest. It's Iranian interest in the foreign ministry or somewhere else. And Iran becomes sort of the predominant priority before Islam. I believe with this war, Iran will enter into the stage of Iran. It does not mean that the Iranian will give up on Islam. Yes. Islam is their religion that will be there forever, just like I am a Shia Iranian. They would have to and will increasingly move Islam from the governing body. That is, the mullahs will be gradually asked to leave the governance, not the politics. Not the politics. They will still be in politics, but not in the government. That is to say, they will move away from theocracy. I think they just have to. And this stage of Iran is right there. That is the Iran of the King Nader. That is a different Iran. So my prediction for after the war is that Iranian patriots with radical Muslims who will become increasingly patriotic Iranian, keeping their Islam in place, they will be center stage. Of course, under the Khamenei leadership, Iran moved away increasingly from the Islamic revolution. The country was taken over with mafia. The country is run or was running by the oligarchs. And these people, the so-called moderates, reformists, and so on, still are there they are in the parliament, they are in the executive branch and so on. But as I said, they will be increasingly moved away from that positions, and that country will increasingly, operate as if the Nader Shah is back. Very, very tough, dictatorial, militaristic, but patriotic, nationalist. And I can tell you, many young Iranians, in fact, are at the border of becoming national fascist, because for the last 40-some years, everybody in the world has hit Iran. Iran has been, humiliated, big time, humiliated. Remember, fascism is the product of humiliation. Yes. That's the number one. And Iranians have been significantly humiliated. So I will not be surprised that what I am seeing coming, it will be bordering the Iranian national fascism, that Iran. In fact, I will just listening to a new song, which they claim to be the national song. And the song was Iran, 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 Iran. Why? And then they will say Iran, 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 Allah, 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 Iran, 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 Allah, Allah, Allah. This is the song. What is? Yes. Is that the national song now? So that is what I think Iran will be moving thanks to Mr. Netanyahu and Trump. Iran now is liberated. Iran is going to become completely different nation. And finally, I have to tell you one thing. This war taught Iranian a lesson that in the last 40 some years, they really missed it. And you know what that was?
Yes.
That even if Iran doesn't have a bomb, but it does have a deterrence force even stronger than the bomb. You know what that is? The Strait of Hormuz. And
Yes.
that is a small Arab states in the region. They have effectively used this missiles against the states and the closing of the Strait of Hormuz as a real deterrence force.
Yes, you're so right. The genie of the Hormuz Strait of Hormuz is out of the bag, and it's never going to go back in, because now Iran knows what influence they can assert, not just in region, but the whole global economy. We'll go back to Hormuz and regional significance in a minute, but it's really interesting the way you explain Iran, Islam, from Islam to Iran. And I love the way that you explain and describe things. And two questions come to mind. Firstly, I'm thinking that when you have that transition, just like when you had the Islamic Revolution and things swing sometimes too much to one side, when they go from Islam to Iran, do you think there is a danger of going too far to the point of no return, where then we go from one form of oppression maybe to another form, which is unchangeable as well? And the second question may be related. When you talk about Nader Shahi, does that Nader Shahi include outward expansion? Do neighboring countries, region, do they need to be afraid of Nader Shahi?
Well, on the first question, obviously, I did point to a danger of that Iran, and that is the Iranian national fascism that could backfire, of course.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the Islamic Republic in the beginning went too far. It went from everything was Islam. It was Islam.
Yes.
There was no Iran. Now, the reaction is Iran. Iranian culture is a sensational, reactive culture. And unfortunately, this is a reaction to that Islam, which you now see in Iran. Obviously, people like me, and I think other, mindful politicians are very concerned about it, and we are trying to create a balance. After all, Islam is the religion of the people. And as I said, many, I call Nader Shah, in the field are Islamists. They are radical Islamic people. And obviously, the nationalists will not, and should not leave them. They should, in fact, create coalition. My own, view of this and strategy is that the nationalists and the radical Islamists, which I call Islam One, I will explain to you, they have to come together. Remember, Islam One was the Islam of Khomeini. Khomeini brought Islam One to Iran. Under Mr. Khamenei, Islam One became Islam Two. That is the Islam, basically, of America. Americans infiltrated the Islamic Revolution and made people like Zarif, Rouhani, I don't know, these people who called themselves Muslim, but they had nothing to do with Khomeini Islam, had nothing to do with Islamic Revolution. So Islam too took over gradually, but now Islam One is coming back. The radical Islam of Khomeini is back next to the Iranian patriots. And I think the coalition of these two has to be maintained and strengthened and against not just foreign invaders, but particularly against this Islam too, the second Islam. The Islam too really extends from reformists and so-called moderates in Iran to supporters of the Pahlavi and those expatriates who are calling for America and Israel to bomb Iran. So Islam too includes America, Israelis, and just expatriate traitors, and the people inside. We call them reformists and moderates. That's Islam too. Islam won. The Khomeini Islam is now back, the radical Islam, and these Islamists who used to be anti-Iran and anti-nationalism in Iran, they are rethinking it. So that's radical Islam is now pro-Iran. It's pro the patriotism. It's a very, very, very different Islam as opposed to the second Islam that American brought to Iran after the revolution by penetration into this regime. But so again, yes, there is a danger for the Iranian could go all the way to Iran. But thanks God, there is a force out there, and that I call Islam One, or the first Islam, the Khomeini Islam, which is still powerful and is fighting along the side of the patriots in this war, and their union will not allow that Iran to go that far. So there will be Iran, Islam. As I said in that song, the national song, they say Iran, and then say Allah, Allah, Allah. You see, they are trying to combine, and that's the right way to go. Now, as far as the Nader Shahi case, remember, Nader Shah came to power not as a conqueror. It came to take what the Ottomans, the Arabs have taken from Iran. See, Nader Shah or the Afghanis, he went first against the Afghans who had taken Iran, destroyed them, and then went against the Ottoman Empire who had taken lots of land in Iran, and then he went against the Russians who had taken Iranian lands. The only instant that we can call expansionism in case of Nader Shah was to invade India. But the problem with India was Nader Shah really gave them so many opportunities, told them, listen, the people have been traitors and they have destroyed my country. They have come and taken refuge in your country. Please check them out. Unfortunately, Indian king not only wouldn't do that, they would try to help these people to come back. So Nader Shah had no choice but to invade India.
Yep.
So again, that's a very important point I'm making. Nader Shah was not really an expansionist. Nader Shah just took over what others have taken from Iran. The only case of the India was also a case of, I believe, self-defense, because the Indian had, given, immunity, whatever, to this Iranians who had escaped, and they were just like the white, the white in the Russian Revolution. They were the Iranian white in India who were trying to come back and destroy again and take over. So again, no, I don't believe that the Arab world should be concerned about the Nader Shah in Iran. But then again, one thing I can also tell you, the time the Arabs will take advantage of Iran is gone.
Yes.
Remember, for 40 some years, or at least for the last 20 years, the Arabs opened their lands to America, to Israelis, in every Arab state in the Persian Gulf, America has the biggest military base.
Yeah.
And America was using this military base for a long time against Iran, and Iran still was patient and wouldn't react. And as I said, Mr. Khamenei wouldn't allow it until everything changed. I think Iran will go back to square one, will have good neighborly relation. Iran doesn't have any intention of taking over any country in the region. Iran knows that the world has changed, but all Iran wants is mutual respect, mutual good neighborhood, ship, and that you will not allow your land to be used against me. If the Arabs were to continue, allowing their lands to be used by the American, then, of course, the thing would be different. Now, Mr. Zelensky, Ukraine, is going to the Arab world. The Arabs are inviting Ukraine to come to their help. The Arabs are out of their mind. I mean, in Iran, we say, they have a saying, it says, the blind leading the blind.
Yeah, exactly.
A blind is asking another blind to move him from this side of the street to the other side. I think what they're going to do, the two blinds, they are going to cause accident in the street, and everybody will lose. I think these Arabs are crazy. I'm so sorry. I love them. I have a lot of friends there. But I mean by Arab, I mean the Arab leaders. I mean the sheikhs. I mean, you're crazy. America will support them and protect them and spend billions on that.
Yeah.
And billions in military, in bases and all that. Now they see America is not in a position to protect them. They're now not going to Ukraine, to Zelensky for that. And I tell you that I can talk to you about that. The reason they are going to Zelensky is a detour from Israel. Because Zelensky, Ukraine is Israel. Zelensky is Netanyahu. The Arab doesn't want to go to Netanyahu for help. So it's going to Zelensky in a detour to Netanyahu and Israel. We can talk about that later on.
It's crazy, Professor. Now, you're so right.
Change.
It's crazy how, with this, still, when we look at Putin, he still has in his heart sympathy for Israel and Netanyahu because he thinks there's a lot of Jewish Russians in Israel and somehow they have a special place. But he doesn't see what damage Israel is doing to Russia itself. Professor, one thing, I'm equally completely baffled when I see the logic being used by the Arab states before the war started and even now today. I don't see how any of that is going to benefit them. We'll talk about that in a minute. Before we get there, I just wanted to tell the viewers, Professor in his last interview talked about Islam 1 and Islam 2 in great depth. And I found that really fascinating. And we had really great feedback about that interview as well. So I'm going to leave a link to that interview. So please do listen to it because that whole concept of Islam 1 and Islam 2 is very revealing. And the way Professor explains these things, I think is quite unique because especially talking about Iran is very difficult. Either you'll find people who see nothing good in Iran or you'll see people who find no fault in Iran. And it's very difficult to find this kind of objective analysis that Professor Hooshang is able to offer. So I'm going to leave a link to that. I'm also going to find that song that Professor is talking about and see if my producer can put that at the end of this interview. So do listen to that at the end. So Professor, thank you for that. But now going to the Arab states. Professor, before this war started, there was signs that a number of Gulf states were actually encouraging America not to let this opportunity go. They were saying, now that you've amassed so many troops, if you don't attack Iran, it's going to embolden Iran. So go ahead and attack. And now that they're suffering so much humility actual destruction of their resources and potentially destruction of their states. They still seem to have this. They're still advising America not to stop until you've weakened Iran substantially. Don't stop and go back, because this is going to cause us more problems. How is that possible? How do they not see that this path that they're on leads to nothing but destruction of the Gulf states?
See, that they are trapped. I think the Arab now are trapped. They thought the America will destroy Iran, get rid of it, and then Iran will never go back. They never hit the Arab world, and that will be the end of it. Now they have waken up to the reality that was wrong, that Iran has surprised them, that not only the America has not been able to win this war, but Iran has been able to hit the Arab world, okay, and the Persian Gulf states in particular, and the America hasn't been, or the Israelis for that matter, in a position to support them. Now, the trap is this. They are afraid that the U.S. will end this war with at least 1/4 of Iran's power in place. And that 1/4 of power in place is enough for the Arab world to get into trouble later on. After all, the Strait of Hormuz will never, ever be the same. The Strait of Hormuz will be from now on only open as Iran wishes, and the Arab world will be trapped in that. And so that is very important. Second, I think the Arab world know that if they continue building American bases, they will be hit. So they are in a trap because they don't know how to get rid of the bases. They don't know how to open the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz. And in fact, their relation with Iran has been deteriorated significantly. And remember, Iran is a big country, very diverse in terms of economy. You could destroy Iran, but still you could close Iran off. Iran will survive. Iran has a very diversified economy. It's many people that think of Iran just like, Dubai or Saudi Arabia. And these are single commodity states. These are oil companies, most of them. And think about desalinization plants. God forbid if America was to go after Iran desalinization plants, Iran would destroy the Arab side of those desalinization. By the way, in fact, Arabs buy water from Iran.
Yes.
They even live in Iran's water. I can't believe who are these leaders that have taken over the Arab world. I hope there will be leadership change in the Arab world as well, because the old style is not going to work for them. And I don't think the Iranian Nader Shah will live with them in peace the way they have done it. Okay, and I think they already have disappointed with America, the Arabs. They are entrapped, disappointed. Mr. Trump very openly tells Ben Salman, their most powerful leader, as a guy who is after kissing his ass. Just think about it. It is the worst. It's the
worst insulting enough.
Yes, the worst. And yet, Mr. Ben Salman will not open his mouth as if he hasn't heard it. Only a few Arab intellectuals I saw talking about it. Not a single Arab leader I saw reacting to this. This is how the Arab world has gone low. Okay, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, so sad. Yeah,
it's unfortunate how terrible they are being humiliated. It's not just the Iran, the Arab world has been humiliated as well. Remember, Mr. Trump did not use their base, hit Iran, got them into trouble with Iran, then did not protect them, that it didn't protect them. You know what? Still is asking Arabs for money. That's what
Yes.
he said. Arabs have to pay for this war. Oh my God.
Professor, at one stage he even said Iran has to pay for the missiles we're throwing at Iran.
Yeah. Because we are talking about the Arabs now. I think I don't know what the Arab sheikhs are going to live with in this particular situation. They really need a regime change in the Arab world.
Professor,
I really believe in regime
everything
change.
is going to change. When I look at Iran, I think Iran has seen and withstood a lot of very difficult decades, really. And I think looking ahead, Iran has such a bright future because with so many sanctions in place, it's impossible for any country to be operating in a normal condition. Iran somehow withstood that whole situation. Even when we had JCPOA, Iran was abiding by the terms of JCPOA, but it was really affecting Israel, but even European countries. I used to see here that they were very bitter that Iran is getting a lot of financial benefits from JCPOA, from the lifting of sanctions. So now when I look ahead, those sanctions, all of those things will have to change. And economically, do you see like how, because Iran is such an educated society, even when I look at like the current leadership, the president of Iran is a heart surgeon. The foreign minister is someone who has a PhD in law from the University of Kent in the UK. We had Ali Larijani, who's passed away now, who's been killed. He had a PhD in Western philosophy. So Iran's a very kind of educated society. It's a big country. It's a big population. Without sanctions, how do you see Iran is going to be completely set free in a way economically, no?
Well, yes, Iran is a very educated country. Just to complete your statement, Iran has 92 million people of whom 75 million is above 16 years of old. 90 million of these people are university graduates,
Yes.
including 6 million women. That's quite a big number. That's very huge. Iran, of course, has the largest land, very interesting land, and then the geography, the geopolitics, the minerals, and everything else. So Iran is a very rich and important country. Now, JCPOA and the didn't really help much. It was only for a year, and it was all over. Iran has been under sanction for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all kinds of sanctions. Iran has survived the sanctions. Iran has become an expert in finding ways to defeat the sanctions. Sanction busting in Iran is a field.
Yeah.
It's like
Teaching Russians as well. Yeah.
is that expertise now in Iran. And besides, I have to tell you, sanctions, of course, were very much against the average Iranians, but the sanction wasn't against that
Yes.
up 10% of the Iranians who in the last 40 years increasingly became richer and richer and richer. As I speak, the class gap, the income gap between the 60 or 70% of Iranians and that 10% is so huge. As we speak, 5 to 10% of Iranians have as much money and resources as you can think of. And then, of course, the bottom part is suffering. So sanctions on Iran were indeed transferred to these poor people. The rich people used the sanction to further enrich themselves. So American sanctions, everybody should know, was a sanction against the average Iranian, not the billionaire Iranians. In fact, this American sanctions increased the billionaires and the millionaires and destroyed the average middle class and the poor people. Those people who advocated sanctions must be ashamed of themselves, because they were so inhumane and they were so anti-poor people, the middle class people, and for the billionaires and millionaires. So moving forward, unfortunately, sanctions will still further, damage, inflict, loss on the average Iranians and make the others to win from it and make money from it. And one of those groups that make money from it and used to make money from it was the government itself. The government itself. Because a lot of this mafia groups and a lot of this oligarchs were directly connected to the regime.
Yeah.
They were the operators, the main operators of the regime. That is why I said this war was a blessing, because it freed Iran from the yoke of that group of people. Now, Iranians are not going to live with that kind of a situation. I can promise you, it will be like another 1979 revolution, close to that again.
Yes, I think so.
This time a little bit different, but very much the same. Okay, so again, I think Iran can survive the sanction. Iran has a diversified economy. I don't think that Iranian will go hungry. Not a single Iranian is hungry. Okay, they all have more or less something to eat, although increasingly less. Increasingly less, and particularly I'm talking about that 60-70% of the bottom of the society who is suffering. Again, I feel bad for them. If I was American, I would lift sanctions after this war. I would pay Iran reparation. They have to really pay Iran for damages. These are the Iranian people's money. These are the Iranian people's assets. These guys are destroying. These are the Iranian people's defensive system that they are destroying. So again, my hope is that America will come to sense after the war, normalize relation with Iran, if at all possible, and pay for the damage and start on a completely different relationship with that country. That's the only hope I have. I have spent 40 years trying to mend U.S.-Iran relations because I knew that relation is cancerous and that relation is cancerous and killer. But 40 years ago, I said that 40 years ago. But let's see. Let's see. I think I don't worry about sanctions at this point. My worry at this point is how this war going to end.
Yeah.
And more importantly, believe me, I am almost certain that Iran will win this war, regardless of how much it loses.
Yes.
And Israel will lose this war, regardless of how many he kills or damages. My real concern is the fight within Iran between Islam 2 and Islam 1. That is the real fight. That is the real fight of the future in Iran. If Islam 2 wins again, forget about Iran. It's gone, finished. If Islam 1 and nationalists, that coalition wins, you get a new Iran, completely different.
Professor, I love listening to you. I could listen to you all day long. I do, however, realize you've joined us back to back after another interview you had with India and Global Left. Guys, do listen to that if you can find that interview. I'm going to listen to it myself. Professor, I don't want to take more of your time today, but I would request you do join us again very soon because we love listening to your analysis. And bless you and bless Iran.
And I thank you to have him. You have a good program, and that it gives you an opportunity really to speak out and deepen the analysis as opposed to sound bites that you get from these TVs here and there.
Yeah.
And that's a great opportunity for people to learn, really, to listen to the voices of reason and to listen to good analysis, to facts, to the realities on the ground.
Thank you so much, Professor. And guys, keep listening because we will have put the song that Professor mentioned straight after this. So I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, but please, Fahim, make sure that they send me the link
Definitely.
to this program and to the last program, which I spoke about Islam 1 and 2.
For sure.
Both of them. I want to send them both together to my community.
Yes, please, because that was a very good talk as well.
Yes.
I actually have gone back and listened to it 2 or 3 times already, so I will send you a link. Thank you so much, Professor. Have a lovely evening. Take care.
Thank you, and you too. Thank you.
ایران رگبار مسلسل ها مشته شده بر ایوان الله 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 لا اله الا الله لا اله الا الله 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 لا اله الا الله لا اله الا الله 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 أكبر الله أكبر الله 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله ایران 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 خون و مرگ و عصیان خون و مرگ و عصیان ایران 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 خون و مرگ و عصیان خون و مرگ و عصیان بنگر که همه فریاد بنگر که همه طوفان بنگر که همه طوفان ایران 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 بنگر که همه فریاد بنگر که همه طوفان بنگر که همه فریاد بنگر که همه طوفان الله 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 لا اله الا الله لا اله الا الله 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 لا اله الا الله لا اله الا الله 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 اکبر الله اکبر الله 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 لا اله الا الله لا اله الا الله از اشک یتیمانت از خون شهیدانت از اشک یتیمانت از خون شهیدانت فردا که بهار آید صد لاله به بار آید صد لاله به بار آید از خون شهیدانت صد لاله به بار آید صد لاله به بار آید